For most of my life up to this very point, I placed values on things in my life that truly did not matter and instead started to devalue the very things that actually meant something. For example, I started to believe that having that Lamborghini in my garage was of value, whereas the relationships in my life truly didn't mean much. Right? I thought being somebody who was seen as a somebody, having the status, being desired and wanted and admired, and having somebody laid up with me every other day, I thought that's what made me somebody. And having a family, having a one person relationship where we actually built a foundation and we kept things in house and we cared to create something beyond ourselves, I thought that was lame. I thought that was meaningless. That meant nothing in this world. And this wasn't a byproduct of me consciously thinking it through. I wasn't trying to devalue the things that matter most in life, but instead I was conditioned, programmed, and basically brainwashed into believing that these material things were what had value. That's what had the true substance in life. Now, I'm not an anti-materialist, right? I'm not the type of individual who's going to tell you that, you shouldn't want whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you you shouldn't want the Lamborghini, the penthouse, the bikini models, whatever it is that you want in your life. I'm not going to tell you that, right? You can do, be, and have anything you want in this life. But what I will tell you is when you seek those things in order to fulfill some void within you will forever go unfulfilled. When you're looking for love in all the wrong places, you will never find it. When you're going outside for the things that you're supposed to be looking within yourself for, you will always be at a deficit. You will never find yourself in a place where you are finally fulfilled. There's not going to be enough money in your bank account. There's not going to be enough cars in your garages, plural, that will ever fulfill. And so it's not to say, again, we negate the desire for these things. Instead, we see them as I guess they used to say like the cherry on top, right? Or the icing on the cake. It's not the true thing itself, the substantive thing, right? Well, I mean, cake might not be the best example because there ain't no substance in that anyway. But it's not the main course, it's your dessert, right? You can enjoy it and it might edify your experience, but it's not what's going to give you the actual nutrient value that you need. It's not going to be that steak on the plate. And so, again, I've come to the place where I'm starting to accept more and more, even though my ego does not want to accept this, because again, my ego has been conditioned into it's been rehearsing this script forever. It's been telling myself that in order for me to be a somebody, I need to accumulate. I need to get these sort of mechanisms that are going to make me look like somebody, that are going to have the rest of the world admire me. I need shiny things in order to get people's attention. In order to get people's affection, in order to get love, I have to continuously do something, or even, just a sense of identity. When I show up in the world as who they want me to be, then I'll be accepted. I had a decision making this video right now. Do I create a quote unquote dumbed down video? Do I create a video that I think everybody is going to like? Or do I speak the truth? Do I speak the message that is authentic within me right now in this moment? And that choice is based on fulfillment or validation, seeking something from the external or seeking something from within myself. And when I start to go within, I start to realize that there is an authenticity to me, just like there is in you. There is a truth of me that is looking to be expressed. And when that part is not expressed, we go unfulfilled. So it's not even just, the family's what's going to make you happy, because you can also use that as an idol in your life. You can use that as the God within your life, which is still an external thing, right? You can start to value things, even the family structure. Then you start to make family, your ruler. You start to make friendship or community your ruler. You start to make, your church, your mosque, or whatever it is. You start to make that thing more important than what actually matters most, which is what's going on within you, the inherent intrinsic aspect of self. That's what we're getting to. And I know this still scares a lot of people when they hear this, because we've been indoctrinated to believe that, it is selfish to focus on thyself. It is conceit. It is evil in some people's eyes, depending on how religious you've been programmed. But for some, it is evil to place a focus on self. These ideas of self-love and self-worth were foreign to me. When I was in Christianity and I was, indoctrinated in this religion, I believed that these words were damn near cuss words. These things were blasphemous. They were heresy. And so I stayed far away from them, not understanding that I was actually using my religion as a means of escapism from myself. I was using them as coping mechanisms, right? and I was pretending like they were, these altruistic, virtuous things that I was doing, when in reality I was using it as a place to hide. And I finally came to a place where I said, you know what? I have to do something different, because I was experiencing more of these external trinkets, right? I had more and more things that I could point to and say, well, I got, it might not have been the most impressive things, but, as a single young black man in the middle of the Bay Area, most expensive place in the world, and I got a 2-room apartment in the middle of this, and I got me a little, cool job with a steady paycheck. I can do anything that I want at my leisure, and I can buy this and go to dinners. I mean, I could do all types of things, and yet I still felt unfulfilled, right? Or even at a certain point when, I was running around a little crazy. Y'all know what I mean by running around. I was not in the streets completely, but I was on the pavement. I was for the pavement. I wasn't for the streets, but I was for the pavement. I was close enough to it. I wasn't quite in the building yet. And I found myself in this constant hamster wheel where I was having these unfulfilling relationships. And obviously, I would blame the relationship because that's the easiest place to go, right? It has to be their fault. It's got to be this generation. It's modern women. It's modern this. I got to blame something external. But I came to a point where I had to admit that it was me, that I was the common denominator in every single one of those relationships and every single one of these situations that I would find myself in. I can't even call some of them relationships because they were true situationships, not exactly entanglements, right? I still had some honor to me at the very least, just a little bit, just enough to get by. But there were situationships. There was never relating. There was never seeking to actually be a contributing factor to somebody else's life. But instead, I was looking to fulfill a void within myself, which could only be filled from the inside looking out as opposed to from the outside going within. And so, again, placing value on those things that truly have no value. This is the way of our society. This is the way that we have been conditioned. We've been brainwashed into believing this way in order for us to be consumers. It's as simple as that, right? I started my career as a digital marketer. I started my career, helping people sell things. And I did my best to align myself with those who were, let's say, selling ideas, so personal brands, etc. Those who I believe were contributing to the greater society. And so I found myself in health and wellness first. And that was the space that I truly wanted to be in, because that's the space that had kind of changed my life drastically, the personal development, health and wellness space. Because, I came from addiction from 14 to 19 years old, almost 20. And then after that, I stepped into self-help, personal development. And, it truly helped to transform my life. Now, I won't say it was the end all be all, but it was a powerful transitional point for me. Anyway, I was a digital marketer. And so what did we do? We learned how to sell things, and we learned how to use psychology in order to sell things. And, I can think that I'm holier than the next person, which I'm not. I'm not, going to say, oh, that person's way worse because they're selling cigarettes and I was selling, you know, mentalities or ideas or concepts, I guess you would say, just as I am right now in this video. But I do recognize that there is a manipulation that happens, right, that we buy into as human beings, because it's a two-way street, right? It's a relationship that we share. It's a symbiotic relationship where they supply us with the things that we know are no good for us, and they sell the things that they know are no good for us, right? And we kind of play this game of pretend sometimes. And yes, the programming is deep. Like, that subconscious layering is very, very deeply rooted from childhood, and even beyond childhood, before child, pre-childhood, right? When you're still in the womb, your mom is eating all the sugary products, you're probably going to get a propensity to eat the sugar. It doesn't mean that you're doomed to a life of sugar. As you come here and you become conscious around 6, 7 years old, as they say, give me a child until the age of 7 and I'll give you, the man or the woman. When you're at that stage of your life, when you start to become conscious, now we can make more decisions for ourselves. It just is easier to make the decisions that are rooted in our programming, right? But we're not a slave to that programming. We're not bound to that programming. It's just far more difficult to pivot from it. But yeah, anyway, the programming that we've been indoctrinated into, that we've been conditioned into, is that which says the thing is going to bring you happiness, whatever that thing is. So it might be the vehicle, it might be the device, it might be the relationship. And they sell relationship through product as well, right? If you look at Axe body spray commercials from back in the day, if anybody knows what Axe even is, I don't even know if they're still in business. They probably shouldn't be because they're selling bottle toxins. But, It's tell you if you spray yourself, you will have all the girls swarming to you. All the ladies would, flock to you like moth. Ladies, I know you know the exact same thing happened on y'all side at every which way. I mean, it's y'all bombarded by it. All these false images. If you look like this and you do this, and now it's like you buy a body and you create and morph yourself into this caricature, you will find that perfect relationship. And because we have that internal intrinsic desire for connection and to be seen and to be heard and to be understood and to be valued, because we have those intrinsic aspects of ourselves, that's exactly what they use. They feed into that need and give you a solution that is some material thing, and you now believe that you need that thing in order, to be accepted. It's like if you think of makeup. Makeup can be a beautiful enhancer and edifier, cool. But when you become an addict of it, and yes, you can become an addict of anything, and there are multitudes of makeup addicts to the point where they would just do a permanent makeup, right? Enhancements, as we call them. That individual has basically bought out of the truth that they are worthy, valuable, beautiful as they are, regardless and in spite of. You think, man, my nose is too big. No, your nose is exactly how it's supposed to be. My ears are too big. Your ears are exactly how it's supposed to be. You know, my chesticles, my whatever, right? My backside. No, you're exactly how you were supposed to be built. And the ones who will see you and see that beauty, it's for them. But it really begins with you. Beyond anybody in the external, you have to be able to see yourself in that lens, to see yourself that this is the perfection of who you are. You were created this way for a reason. There is intrinsic value in you. The value is not in what you add. The value is not in what you put on top. The value is from who you are. There's a reason why when you look in the 60s and the 70s, you have these like icons and superstars who had a very strange look to them. They weren't this traditional, typical, beautiful individual, and yet we all call them beautiful. It's because they stepped into what they were, right? The David Bowies of the world. If they walk by the street right now, not David Bowie, most people wouldn't think, wow, look at that beautiful man. But yet, David Bowie was always deemed as one of these individuals. It's because he was willing to accept who he was. He didn't create a new image for himself, even though he might have done the face paints and all kinds of stuff like that. He stepped into his own uniqueness. And in the same way, we are to do so within ourselves. There is intrinsic value within us, all the aspects of ourselves, right? Mental, emotional, physical, etc. All of it, the entire package that is uniquely you is of value, is of substance. And nothing is ever going to add to it. Nothing is ever going to better who you are. You can't better something that is already perfection, right? You can only continue to explore it, expand it, let it be expressed, right? And enjoy it. So the things, they're not adding to you. That the Lambo isn't making you a more desirable person. It's creating the illusion of such, but you will still feel as if you are a nobody so long as you rely on that thing in order to make you feel like a somebody. So that's my message for today is what are you placing value on that truly has no intrinsic value? And what is it that you're seeking out of those things? What do you think you're going to get from it? And again, I'm not the person, I'm not going to tell you that I'm not going to buy the Lambo. I'm not going to tell you that I'm not going to, get a penthouse or two or a few. I'm not going to tell you that because I'm not anti those things. I just know that those things are nothing more than for my enjoyment. They're nothing more than for my pleasure, right? It's for play. It's not to make me who I am. It's not to validate me. It's not to give me a status beyond who I am. I know who I am and I know whose I am.